Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool arcade game repair video for you this evening. We got some cool stuff in the shop today, but we're working on this one. One of the grandfathers of the arcade scene. This cool old Asteroids. This is an early one too with the owl eye, coin door, and all of that on it. We had the thing up and running and then it died on us. Ugh. So if you don't know, a lot of times whenever you fix old electronics, it'll work fine. Well, in particular arcade games, it'll work fine for a little while, and then some other chip dies on it. So something has died on this thing, and I figured I'd show you how we troubleshoot it and figure out what's going on. So let me show you what it's doing. Now the board, I've moved it out so we can start messing with it. The board creates the X and the Y coordinates and sends the info up to the monitor as a vector monitor, and the monitor interprets it with the deflection board and displays it on the screen. Well, if it doesn't get X and Y signals, the deflection board can't deflect the beam, so it just stays right in the center of the screen, which will burn the center of the screen. So you don't want that. This one is the 801, which is the early version of the G05, the Electrohome G05-801. It has this separate little power board. I've seen a bunch of Asteroids, and this is one of them, where that thing, there is always a small dot in the center of the screen. Even whenever it's working fine, you'll have a really faint dot right in the center of the screen. Sometimes there's a little bit of a circle around it too. And it seems like it's always the 801. The 802 doesn't seem to do it, which may be one of the things that they designed out of it. And the Wells-Gardner version doesn't do it. So my whole point is, if the board is not working, this monitor should turn on this light, which is the spot killer. It's what the circuit is actually called. It turns on that light to kill the spot in the center of the screen so it doesn't burn the tube. So I'm going to turn it on. Makes some noise, turns off, and you can see that the spot killer LED is staying on. Okay, now we've got this particular game set on free play. So when it's on free play, you should be getting these LEDs flashing. We're not getting anything like that. We had it up and running, but that's the deal. When I came back here and looked at it, when I found it froze, the little spot that's usually in the center, it's just a minor little spot that you can barely see. It was kind of up here, which is a dead sign that the monitor is not getting the X and Y information. I'm trying to put it in a test. It doesn't seem like it will go into test. So we've got two locked on LEDs. Nothing seems to be happening. That's where we're at. So the first thing that you would do in a situation like that is test your voltages. So you want to see if the game has 5 volts and then all of its voltages that it uses to create the video out. So let me carefully see if I can do this while I'm standing here with the camera in my hand. That makes it more fun. It's more likely I'll fry something if I do it with the camera in my hand like that. I need to go get the ones that have the little clips on them, but we'll struggle through. Okay, so I've got my trusty multimeter here, and we're going to check the 5 volt. It's 4.98. That's pretty good. So it should be booting with that. Now there are several other voltages on this game, and what we're trying to do is check to see if it's the CPU side of the board, which is the CPU, the RAM, and the ROMs, or if there's a problem with the vector generation. So the 5 volt runs all of the chips and runs the CPU. I think it's -15 and +15 runs the vector outputs. So a way you can check those, that some of the versions of the board don't have the, or maybe all of them don't have it, don't have test points for those voltages. But the way you can do it, boy, I've got this precariously perched. The way you can do it is very carefully check on these transistors here. So the left side of this one is a ground. The middle should be the tab, is negative 23 volts, and the right side is negative 15 volts. So that's a negative 15 volt transistor, and it's voltage regulator, and it's creating that voltage. Now this middle one, you got to be careful. 21 volts, that's the ground, and this side is 5 volts. So that's creating a separate 5 volt power supply just for this video output stuff. And then finally this other one here, very carefully, 21 volts, that's the ground, and then the output is 15 volts. Okay, so the only other voltage I think is 12 volts. I don't see a 12 volt test point. Maybe it doesn't even, I think 12 volts is the only other voltage. They don't have a test point on here. But we know that the 12 volts makes the LEDs light up. So it's probably working. I may be able to test it on these other ones over here. Let me see if I can find a 12 volt anywhere. Yeah, there we go. It's 11 volts, but it's usually an unregulated voltage. Or it doesn't have to be exactly 12. Okay, so our voltages are fine. So now we're going to see if we can figure out if the clock is there and if the CPU is running. So the first thing that a game needs to work is it needs power, and then it needs a clock signal. And it rides on the back of that clock signal to make all of its stuff happen. So that's how it is able to time things, and that's the motion that it needs, right? Well, this is the clock right here, this crystal. Well, it's not the clock, but the crystal creates the clock. So you can test that actually right here on this O2, clock 2 test point. So we're going to do that with a logic probe. So let me go grab that and show you how to hook it up, and we'll test it. Okay, so I've got my little logic probe. And I've got the ground hooked up to ground, and then the red line from the logic probe hooked up to 5 volts, because we want this to tell us if a particular signal is grounded, which would be green, or high, which would be the 5 volts that we have it attached to. So interestingly enough, your skin has like a capacitance to it. So if you touch it, or when I touch it at least, it says I'm pulsing. And that's true, people. I've got blood running through every vein I've got. Okay, so, well, not every vein. Not right now. Let me keep going. Okay, so this is our clock signal, and it is pulsing. Okay, so what does that tell us? All that tells us is that there is a clock signal there. There's a crystal. Well, that's a clock. There is a clock signal there. It may not be right, but there's one there, right? Usually it's right. If it's not right, a lot of times it'll look real dirty. It'll look more like that. Okay, so we think our clock signal's there. So the next thing we're going to do is, this is a 6502 CPU chip. Okay, so we're going to check pin 40, which is this one right up here. And we're going to see what it's doing, because that's the watchdog, the reset line. So whenever the board comes up, it's low. That line is low. And then once the power kind of gets steady after about, a tenth of a second, it goes high, or maybe a second. The reset circuitry goes high, and it makes that pin go high. And then it gets a little pulse to keep it high. Okay, if anything happens with the RAM doesn't work right, the program's not working right, it will reset that and start resetting the CPU. So it's trying to get it to basically a power cycle on it. Right. So we're going to check pin 40 here very carefully. Oh boy, I hope I don't break it. I hope I don't drop it. What in the world? Am I checking the wrong pin? No, that's right. Maybe I'm, I did not expect that at all. It shouldn't be pulsing. I wonder if I've got this thing set wrong. Let me see. No, I do not. I'm missing the little sticker on my meter here. I mean my probe here. You can change. There's a couple switches there. You can change from TTL to CMOS chips, and then the other one is that you can change from I think it's a pulse to it remembering what it's solving. I'm getting a pulse on pin 40. Now I'm getting that. So we got something definitely wrong here. Oh, I think that's probably what we're getting. If I'm touching on the top, look, I'm just touching the edge of it, so I think I just wasn't on the pin very well. That looks more like something you'd expect. So it seems to be resetting over and over again. Let's see if now I've got the settings all screwed up on my probe. Nope. There we go. There we go. That's something you would expect. Okay, so it's low and it's staying low. That's actually pretty good. That's a good sign. Okay, so let's go look at the schematics and see what we want to check next. So basically we've confirmed that there's good power. We've confirmed that there's a clock signal that we think is probably right. And then we've confirmed that the reset signal is stuck low. Okay, so if you're not familiar with schematics that much, basically, you know, I'm not the greatest in the world at them, but I'll just show you how to kind of use them. So this is the first page of the schematics. I'm looking at it online on the computer. This is the CPU chip, so it runs everything. So that's what we're trying to get to go, right? That's 6502A. Okay, so it needs power, right? Now you can check it at that pin, but usually if you've got it on the board, it's on the chip, right? And then it needs a clock signal. So you see that little symbol there? That's what we were checking earlier. Okay, so the clock comes from here. So that is the crystal, 12.096 megahertz. And then there is a LS74 LS04 chip there involved. And there's a few resistors. Usually you don't have any trouble with that, right? And then it goes back through the 74 LS04 and gets inverted and comes over here. And it runs to this counter, 9316. Now counters screw up all the time because they're doing a lot of math in there basically. They're counting a lot. So a lot of times you'll find a counter that's got a problem on an old board. Okay, and so this counter creates several different outputs. Now one of the outputs is this 1.5 megahertz that it's basically dividing our clock signal down to, because remember the clock signal is 12.096, right? So it's somehow creating a 6 and a 3 and a 1.5, and then it throws one down here too, right? So this 1.5 is our clock signal, and that's what we were testing with our probe. Whenever I go back over there, I'll test it with on pin 37 just to make sure there's a clock signal present on the pin of the CPU. But it should be. So another thing that it does, though, is it sends this line down here to this other counter, a 74 LS393, that is used to just do some other math and create a 12 kilohertz, not to be confused with megahertz, and a 3 kilohertz signal. Okay? Got 6, 3, 1.5. And then it comes down here, okay? So if any of those signals are missing, you'll get things that don't work right. So you kind of need to check all of those, okay? Now, that 3 kilohertz that I was just talking about that's created by this counter is used in the reset circuit. So this is the reset. It creates this reset line, which then connects to the CPU at pin 40. That's what we were checking. That's stuck low. It should stay low and then go high. Okay. So it actually tells you, Atari made really good schematics. And so it actually tells you, look at this. During initial power up, the delayed charging of capacitor C25 causes a preset of flip-flop D4 and a clear of counter D5. This results in holding the reset input to the MPU low. When the charge of C25 reaches about 1.5 volts DC, preset and clear inputs are removed. Counter D5 counts to 128 at 3 kilohertz rate and reset is removed. It goes high from the input of the MPU. This allows the logic power input to the PCB to stabilize before allowing the MPU to begin its initialization routine. So what's going on is it's telling the Z80 to, I'm not the Z80, the 6502 to reset by sending this line low when it starts, but then it never sends it back up. So it's turned off the light switch, and then we're all standing here complaining that the lights are out. Well, you never turned the light switch back on. That's exactly what's going on, right? So why is it doing that? Well, it could be, couldn't it, that this 3 kilohertz is missing. What if that line is missing? Well, then this chip would never work right. So that could be. Or it could be that this chip's bad. Or it could be that this chip's bad. It could even be that this little chip here is bad, right? Or another thing I've seen, it could be that this is bad. So look what's going on back here. There's a 5-volt line here, right? So this line is going to be high normally because of this. You've got a diode and a resistor connecting it to 5 volts. So this line is going to stay high. But there's a reset button on the board. If you push that button, it literally shunts that to ground and makes this line low. Well, if this is low, then this is high. And if this is high, then this is low, right? And so if this line goes low, it will also make the reset output go low. Okay, so we got to make sure that that line is not stuck low. So that switch might be stuck. It happens. Or the cap there could be shorted. That probably wouldn't work though because well, it could. You know, so it's just stuff like that that we have to check. So I'm going to go check in this area and see if what I can find. I'm going to see first if my 3 kilohertz seems to be there. And then I'm going to check this pin 13 of B6, or maybe you could even go a little farther down. Maybe check pin 10 of B6, and then see what happens when I hit the reset button. See if that flip-flops like it should. Okay, so we're gonna look in this area and see if anything's not working the way it ought to. Okay, so on D5 pin 1, I do have a clock signal, but it's beeping strangely. There we go. So that's our 3 kilohertz that we wanted. So it's there, or something like it's there. And the clock signal man, we got some issues going on. Well, it'd help if I get my freaking probe right. Okay. Let's try it again. Okay, we've got the clock. There we go. We've got the clock on the chip, and it seems clean. Okay. Let's go back to D5, pin 1. So that's our 3 kilohertz, and it looks pretty strong and clean to me, but you know, it would be better if you looked at it with an oscilloscope, because then you could see if it was actually 3 kilohertz. Okay, so it looks like the chip is getting its signal, and it looks like the CPU is getting its clock. We just get the problem with the reset. Okay, so we're going to look at the next part of the schematics in that reset section. Okay, now the button is right here that we're going to check, and so we're going to check it with pin 10. Is high, and then if I can finagle over to where I can press the button with one hand. Can it be done, people? Come on now. Let me just hold the button now. There we go. So when the button's held down, it's slow. It goes high whenever you let go of the button. Back and forth. So what's that tell you? The button's not stuck. Okay, so we just checked this. This is fine up to here. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to press the button. Well, we don't have to do that. We're just going to check the output of this first counter. Pin 8 there. Let's just see what we get on that. Because it's counting, so you should get some pulsing on that. All right? It tells you over here basically how it's working. If the MPU program is operating properly, the MPU address decoding circuitry will output the watchdog clear signal at predetermined intervals. Okay, so it's this one. This serves to clear counter D5 before it counts up to the state that will create the reset condition. If the MPU program strays from its intended sequence and does not output the watchdog clear signal, counter D5 will count up to the reset state and cause the MPU to return to its initialization routine. So if pin 8 were to pulse, that would actually reset the game. So we don't want to do that actually. So we want to see what's going on here with pin 4, pin 5, and pin 6. Now pin 5 won't be doing anything, but we want to see pin 4 and pin 6 what they're doing. Now this part we're checking can't actually cause what we've got going on, but we're just going to check it just for the heck of it. So pin 4 is the watchdog clear. Okay, it's not working because the CPU is not running. And pin 6 is the inverted output of that. Or it's vice versa, one or the other. So that seems right. Okay. Normally that would be pulsing, but it can't do that right now because the program is not running. So that area can't really be the problem. It's kind of got to be that one last chip. Okay, so the reset line, basically this output should be high, and it gets pulled low by this as it counts up to reset it. During initial power up, the delaying charge of capacitor C25 causes a preset of flip-flop D4 and a clear of counter D5, right? So it's doing it through this line into here and into here. This results in holding reset input to the MPU low. Well, we already know that that line is working just fine, so that's not it. When the charge of C25 reaches above 1.5 volts DC, preset and clear inputs are removed. Counter D5 counts to 128 at 3 kilohertz rate, and reset is removed. It goes high from the input of the MPU. This allows the logic power input to the PCB to stabilize before allowing the MPU to begin its initial. If the MPU program is operating properly, the MPU address decoding circuitry will output the watchdog clear signal at predetermined intervals. Okay, but it's not operating properly. Okay, this serves to clear counter D5 before it counts up to the state that will create the reset condition. If the MPU program strays from its intended sequence and does not output the watchdog clear signal, counter D5 will count up to the reset state and cause the MPU to return to its initialization routine. Okay, so it still could be that chip. All right, we're going to check what's going on with this one, and we're going to check what this output is doing on this one and see if we find anything weird. Okay, so it's B4, D4, 1, 2, 3, B4. No, D4. Pins 11. That's the clock input from that other chip. Pins 12. Okay. 8, that's the output to the Z80, the reset line. It's messed up. And 9, that's the kind of the flip-flop of it. It's the inverted output. So it could be the 6502 because it connects to this pin. It could be this chip is messed up, or it could be the flip-flop itself is messed up. So the first thing we're going to try is swapping the CPU because that's the easiest. Okay, so it's getting the clock in here, which is making this count, right? Which comes back in down here, which is making this count. So if it gets the signal here by either the watchdog clock or my button, it resets this. But anyway, this is counting out. Okay. And you're also getting a pulsing line here. That doesn't seem right. Oh, it's because of the output here. The output here is going back into it. Blah, 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 blah. So anyway, this line is pulsing low, and this line is flip-flopping back and forth like you would kind of expect. So it could be this chip, or it could be where it connects to the 6502. So we're going to try the 6502 first. This is kind of interesting, though, that it might be worth checking pin 10 just to make sure nothing crazy is going on there. But when you have a resistor just tied to power like that, usually you're not going to have a problem if it's a signal thing. It's just sending a signal. It's not like a high voltage or anything like that. Okay, folks, so we put a new D4 in. I swapped the 6502, got the exact same results. So I'm thinking it's the last output before the reset signal. So we'll see if I'm correct. Hopefully. I keep plenty of those in. 7474s go bad sometimes, or I wouldn't have 30 of them. I always put a socket in. So I keep plenty of socket. You know, you got to have your stuff. And guess what? We had a nice gentleman email us, and we were helping him figure out how to get his crane back up and running. Mr. Royce was his name. And so Mr. Royce, we helped him get his crane working that he acquired somewhere. It wasn't from us. And he wanted some advice, and we kind of told him what to look at, and he tested some stuff and worked his way through it, and he finally figured it out, and then he felt like that he wanted to thank us. Now, he didn't need to thank us because he did it. We didn't do it. But he said he had a bunch of old electronic stuff laying around that he didn't need, and he wanted to know if we wanted it. So I said, sure. So he mailed me this bag. Look at all this cool stuff he sent me. So I'm going to move the board out of the way, and then we'll see what's in the bag that Mr. Royce sent me. Okay, so we're going to add all this to the collection. So it is some kind of terminal strip that has pins on the back. I haven't seen one of those. These are fuses. 35 amp fuses. No, 500 milliamp. So a quick acting half amp fuse. That's cool, a box of them. There are some relays. 24 volt DC relays. Those are very useful. He may have ordered these for his crane machine because I think it runs on 24 volts. Another terminal strip. Whoa, there's a bunch of junk in that one. But a little ball bearing fan. And here's what I like. Looks to me like that's made in Hungary. Yeah, buddy, that's probably a good one. You gotta watch where stuff's made, people. This looks like an alarm tweeter, maybe. It says Mallory Sun Alert. SC24 24 volt DC. I think this is a piezo tweeter, or I just like saying the word piezo. I don't really know what a piezo tweeter is, but I believe this is a piezo tweeter. I think you run power through it and it makes noise. I'm the same way. If you run electricity through me, I also make noise. There's a bunch of wrapping wire. Well, this isn't really wrapping wire, but it's thin wire that is actually really good for jumpers and stuff like that. So that's cool. Another little terminal block. These are actually very useful. So these are fuse holders. A lot of the older arcade games have these. So I keep these. I keep tons of these in, actually. Let me find them here. So I've got a bunch of different kinds. I put them in there with my other ones. Mr. Royce, thank you. I will put them to good use, buddy. I just put one. I think in this Asteroids, actually. Joey was telling me that he put one in one of these games that we're working on right now, and it was probably that Asteroids. So, you are replenishing my stock. Look at that. It's great. Okay, there are some wire connectors. We'll use those. I've seen these before. There's actually switches that these go inside of. I don't know. I usually don't see them that big. But like some of the jukeboxes we work on have switches similar to this. And then also the Atari 2600 video game, the little switches on the top. something similar to that is inside of it. Okay, there's a bunch of LEDs that have 3 legs. I don't really know what those are all about, but we'll figure it out. I think that's solder. It's so soft. So that's cool. Whole bunch of little resistors. Some rocker switches. That's cool. Little dots. I don't know. I like the 70s though, so that'll look cool. I'll put it on something. Some kind of connector. I don't know what that one would be called. More terminal blocks. Bop, 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 bop. Bus bar wire, it says. That's cool. Well, here's the resistor labels. Okay, I guess it's telling us what they are. Here we go. LED bicolor, red and green. Well, that makes sense. Okay, so it must be, if I was to guess, you put voltage to one side and then your ground to the other side, or however you wire up a diode. And then one of the pins, if it gets a certain voltage, it's green, and if it gets a certain voltage, it's red. I'll bet that's how that works. So that's cool. I'll have to put that on something. Another relay. More rockers and piezos. So cool. Oh, and the resistors are Emerson CB 5115 510K register. No, that ain't right. I thought it said resistor. That's it. Oh, it does say resistor. Look at that. That could say resistor misspelled or register. But if it's 510K, it's the resistor, I'll bet. Emerson must just be the brand. Let's see, are they all the same? They look like it. And then there's also these little rivets. Look at that. I almost didn't notice them. Those are teeny, people. Look at them compared to the grain on my oak desk here. My solid oak desk here. Look at them. Look at the grain compared to the size of that rivet. Okay, all right, so I'm going to clean this stuff up and put it away, and then we're going to go test the asteroids. So, Mr. Royce, thank you for sending us all this stuff. We'll put it to good use. Okay, folks, we got the new chip fitted. We're going to try it again. Okay, I don't have enough hands. Let me go get the tripod. Okay, folks, so we're going to try it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it on while we watch the reset line. So that's the reset pin. Perfect. So do you see what happened? It started low and then it went high. Do you see it? Just for a second. Okay. And if I hit the reset button, it should toggle. So it's high, that's how it should be the whole time it's playing. It goes low as you reset it, and it goes high. So that may have fixed it. That was at least messed up. That may have been the only thing that was messed up with it. You know what we could do? We could live on our video here. We could go check the front and see if we got lucky or if the same thing's happening. Now, I will tell you, the spot killer LED is in fact off. Okay? Now, if you listen really close, now Dig Dug's playing in the background, so you got to deal with that. But if you listen really close to this monitor, I'm going to get you up near the neck, right? And I want you to just listen. I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but it's going, and then it goes, right? That's called deflection chatter. Because the monitor's doing its thing. And the buttons are blinking as they should. Well, there's only one thing left to do. You know what that is? Okay, folks, so it's hard to film a vector monitor. It just doesn't look right on a camera. But we're going to try it. So, and I don't know if you can see it, but right in the middle of the screen there is a little dot. Now, when you have this properly adjusted, the brightness of the ship, the UFOs, and the bullets should be brighter than the actual asteroid. So I've kind of got it like that, but I don't know if it'll show up on the screen as well. Well, I was too busy looking at him. Who gave that man a license to drive? Gotcha. I got you, sucker. We're about to turn the volume up after this. Okay, we're turning the volume up. It'll be okay, people. We got to make it thump a little more. That's a bit more like how I remember. Do you see the little dot just below the ship there? See it? Right there? Right there? You know, there is another button. There's an escape button. Oh, he got me. All right, I'm just messing around, but I'm going to be serious this time. And you know me, I'm often serious. Ooh, that one's moving. Ooh. I went the wrong way. Did you see that? Some of them were like right on top of each other. I believe when the asteroid hits the ship, you don't get the points. See the dot? Ooh, they got me from behind. They had to sneak up on me. I've said it before. One of my favorite things about the game is how they won't spawn you back right in front of a rock. Like, it waits until it knows you have a little bit of time to get away before it spawns you back in. Look at this, I keep setting the world record. Okay, one more game just to prove that it works. Uh-oh, it's that little one. Hate that sucker. Look at him. He got dealt with by a rock. See, it waits till everything gets out of the way, and then it spawns you back in. That's pretty cool. Think of the math it must have to do to pull that off. Oh, well, I'm steadily getting better. If I play all night, I'll probably get to 10,000 points. All right, folks, so there you go. Hope you enjoyed it. What a cool game. Absolute legendary game, right? That is Atari's Asteroids. Now, if you enjoyed the repair video and you want to tinker around with some repair videos of your own, what you need is a logic probe. Now, I know what you're saying, but Ron, where can I get a logic probe? It's a good thing you asked me that, because I am just the man with that answer. If you go to my website, lionsarcade.com, and for those of you that don't know, that's our last name, lionsarcade.com. The link is down below. We have this game for sale on our website, as well as all of the others that we have available at the moment. But we also have a parts page on our website that sells, that has links to things that we use in our repairs and things like that. Just interesting arcade, pinball, jukebox related stuff. So go check that out. If you click one of those links on our website and it's an Amazon link, it takes you to Amazon. Now, why would you want to go to Amazon? If you buy anything on Amazon after clicking our link, whether it's the little logic probe that you went to look at, or it's a new battery for your car, or whatever, it gives us a tip because we sent you there. That's our link. So we appreciate everybody that's been doing that. We've even had some people, what wonderful people these are. These are beautiful human beings that have bookmarked one of our links. There's also links down below the video too, that have bookmarked one of our links and use it every time they shop on Amazon. So I'm watching. I can't tell who's buying what, or I can't see any names or anything, but you can see just like a bunch of stuff being bought, right? And so it'll be, you know, you can tell that people are just buying all of their stuff using our link. So we really appreciate whoever's doing that. Some people it's just household stuff. Some people they're buying, they're doing obvious computer repair because they're buying many more power supplies and video cards and stuff than any one man or woman could ever need. And then we have our famous lawnmower man. There's somebody that works on lawnmowers apparently that buys stuff all the time using our link. I'm talking like 10, 12 carburetors at a time, stuff like that. So whoever that is, we appreciate it. They have chosen to remain anonymous all these years. but that's fine. So we've got a lot of people doing that, so we appreciate that. You don't have to do it though, but if you feel like it, go ahead. Now, last but not least, don't forget to check out my brother Donnie. Now, my brother Donnie has a channel here on YouTube where he also tinkers around with things, but his are always bigger things like trucks and cars and buildings. So we have bought a couple buildings in a small town near here that we are fixing up, trying to help revitalize their downtown area. So check that out, the My Brother Donnie channel. The link is also down below. My brother is always conning me into being in the videos too. So let's see that little spot. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Do you see it? It's right there. You see it, right? Little tiny dot. It's on the G05 801s. I have read and read and read, and everybody always says, oh, it's your Z. Nope, it's not our Z. Oh, it's the spot killer circuit. Nope, it's not the spot killer circuit. It's that it's a G05 801. There's something going on. It may be that the tube is worn. If the tube is dim and then you turn up the brightness to compensate for that, it could be that it makes that dot visible on a G05 801 for some reason. But there's something going on, and several people have had that problem, and I haven't seen anybody resolve it yet. So the game will work, but there's just a little tiny dot. Usually you can adjust that out, but on a G05 801 you often can't. So there you go, people. If you know what that is, leave your comments down below, but we'll talk to you on the next video. I hope you enjoyed it. This is Atari's fantastic Asteroids.